Hi, this is PR Frank, and today we're going to explore Photoshop's crop tool. There are lots of options with Photoshop's crop tool, and it's good to know about them and some of the amazing features in Photoshop before you even get started cropping. So let's go ahead and open our first image. So I'll go into File, Open, and the particular image that I'm going to open is an NEF file, which is a Nikon brand RAW file, which doesn't do any processing in camera. It lets you do it all after the fact. So you can see this is a shot of a play. And the first thing I'm noticing is it's just a little too purple or red. So I can use the white balance tool, which is here, this little eyedropper. If I select that and find something that's supposed to be white in the photo, it really does a nice job of bringing those colors back to some natural hues. I can also mess around with lots of other sliders here if I feel like the shadows in the back aren't really popping enough, or I want to add a little more contrast or even more vibrance to make those colors pop a little bit. I can do that. So after you've made all the settings you want, you could also crop it here, but we're going to spend some time in Photoshop with that today. So I'll go ahead and click Open Image. And now the crop tool right now is showing a 1x1 square. So let's start up here in our options bar. When you select the crop tool and any other tool in Photoshop, you get an options bar, and let's just walk through it. The first drop-down box you see, you have all the different ratios that are common ratios: 1x1, 4x5 or 8x10, 5x7. These are all photographic and video crop ratios. You also have crop ratios that have associated pixels per inch with them, or resolution. And those can be helpful if you need a particular resolution in your image, whether you're doing it for the web or for print. Okay. Moving on from there, if you would select one of those things, for example, 1x1, it'll just give you a ratio. You don't really lose any pixels that way. However, in the second set, if I wanted to do a 4x5 inch at 300 pixels, I click that. Now it shows quite a different collection of input boxes. You've got a 4 inches, 5 inches, and 300 pixels per inch. So what it'll do is it'll subtract any pixels that are beyond the 4 inches at 300 pixels. And, in that case, that's anything beyond 1200 pixels in width will just be gone from this image once we crop it. So that's good to keep in mind. If you do have this pixels per inch selected, you're not just working with a ratio anymore, you're actually losing some pixels. Moving further along here, if you wish to clear one of those settings out, you can choose clear, and it gets back to the WH and resolution boxes where you can choose your own width and height and resolution. And here the straighten tool is kind of interesting. If you want to straighten, we'll show you that later. You also have a way to look at your image, whether you'd like to look at rule of thirds, or a grid, or the golden ratio, or even the golden triangle, or golden spiral, rather. So those are some standard design grids that you can use so that you can see how your picture is matching up to what is aesthetically appealing. You also have some other preference tools right here in the tool drop-down. And these other two are interesting. So you have a delete crop pixel. So if you do not want to be destructive, you want to work non-destructively with your image, then you need to uncheck this, and that'll always allow you to get back the pixels that you have cropped away after having cropped an image. So it depends on your workflow and how you want to work, but that's a way to work non-destructively. And Content Aware will cover that as well as we get into this. Okay. So for now, I'm going to cancel this crop, and I'll show you how you can do some of these different things. So let's say I want to crop this image to a 4x5 or 8x10. And I want to use an overlay that has standard rule of thirds. And as you'll notice, I'm going to lose either the boy in this photo or one of the girls with this particular crop. Well, what's nice about Photoshop is that you can either swap the width and the height like this to switch to the landscape mode, or you can take this corner and click and drag it kind of out and down, and then it flips it as well. So you can choose, with this crop ratio, you can choose any framing that you like with this. If I don't want to go all the way to the top of the original picture, I don't have to. I can come down here and just get these folks in here. By using rule of thirds, I want to try to keep some important things on the lines of thirds there, and that's not too bad there. It would be a pretty good crop. So if I wanted to crop this, and notice there aren't any pixels per inch, no resolution. So when I do crop this, I'm not really losing any pixels. I'm just eliminating some content from the outside. So if I accept my change, now I have my cropped image, and I can do a number of things with it. At this point, I could do something like File, Save As, or File, Export, and I can export it in lots of different ways. Well, let's just do a Save As, show you how this works. And since I didn't do anything to it in Photoshop, I could certainly save it as a JPEG. It's only one layer, and I'll just call this, I'll add an 8x10 landscape to the end of it. And that way I know that this is the crop that I used for 8x10 ratio in landscape. All right, I do that. Now, none of that is permanent because all I did was crop it once, save it as a different type of file, so it didn't overwrite my original file, and now I'm ready to perhaps perform another crop to deliver another crop ratio to the client or whomever I need to deliver it. So what I can do here is I can go into my history and I can go back to where we just had opened the image. And now I'm back to an uncropped image that I had before. Let's apply another crop setting to this and show a couple of other things. So let's say now this time I want to do a 5x7, but I only want to include maybe this girl and this boy. Well, I can rotate that crop so that I am totally changing how this image appears. And what you'll notice is that some of the crop is going to go outside of the bounds of the original photo. And that wouldn't leave a very attractive piece on my photo to have a white corner on it. And that's what our content aware is for. If I check content aware and do a crop like this where the crop is going outside the bounds of my original photo, then I can check it and it spends some time thinking, and you'll notice it added some pixels up here that weren't there before by analyzing the background information and inserting more pixels. Now, if you don't like how it looks, it's something that can be done multiple times, and you usually get different results each time you try. So this looks pretty good. It looks like those are the only two on the stage. I've cropped it a different way, and once again, I can go to File, Save As, choose the JPEG option, and this time, instead of 8x10 landscape, I'm going to choose 5x7 portrait, and then maybe I'll make a note that I rotated it, okay? So I'm just creating different versions of the same image by using the different crop presets, and in this case, the content aware. Let's take a look at another image. This is an image of a mountain scene that I shot in Maroon Bells in Aspen. And it is just from the phone, and you can see up at the top here, if I zoom in and look, you can see that it is one of these images that it's created by using the panoramic mode. So it sort of stitches all the pictures together that my phone takes as I move it across that landscape. What I'd like to do first is, pick a crop ratio, and actually this time what I'll do on the crop tool is I'll try the width, height, and resolution. I can just come up here and come up with my own. Okay, so one of the common widths is 16 inches by 9 inches, and I can do that at 72 pixels per inch. Okay, so this will be ready for like a desktop screensaver or something like that. So, and you'll notice I'm going to lose some content here at the left or the right, and I definitely don't want any of really close to the edges to be showing, just in case the phone didn't stitch together well. Once you've made some changes and grab those corners, then you can move inside of the photo, inside of the crop frame, you can move the photo around until you get exactly what you want in terms of framing. I think that looks pretty good. It kind of takes in both sides of those peaks and shows the valley well. Another feature that I mentioned earlier is called the Straighten tool. And the way that works is you click the Straighten tool icon, and then you come to your photo and you draw a line across what you consider to be the horizon or the straight line. In this case, let me draw it right here along the edge of this mountain. And as I do that, it recognizes that, oh, this is where I really need to set the horizon. And after when you let go, it rotates the picture for that horizon. Once again, you'll notice it's rotated it beyond the bounds of the original photo. So I have two choices here. I could either grab my corners and bring them in so that I don't have any white space up there, or I could choose Content Aware, which happens to be checked from the last time I did it, and check that to make sure that it builds in extra pixels from the clouds here and extra pixels from the ground here. Let's see how well it does in that case. Okay, now you'll notice the picture's gotten significantly smaller, and that's because what we've done by choosing a width, a height, and a resolution is we have taken out many of the pixels that are used to make up the resolution for this image. But never fear, it's only zoomed out to 22%. I can easily zoom back into 100% to see how it looks by holding down Control 1 or Command 1. So this is the 100% image. This is how big it'll ever be. And so it's really important to do that to recognize what you're working with there. And now it looks pretty good. It did a nice job of coming in here and getting the clouds. And it's not fantastic down here where it tried to add pixels for the grass. Just to see if it does it better the second time, we can go to our history and come back to open, zoom back out. I did Command 0. You can do Control 0 on a PC. And let's set the width, height, and resolution again to 16 inches by 9 inches at 72 pixels per inch. Do our Straighten tool and make sure that Content Aware is checked. And let's see if it does a better job this time. Okay, zooming back into 100. You can see that this time it did a different process for figuring out how to fill in this grassy area down here, and it did a better job. So sometimes you just have to do another iteration of the crop to get what you want, and that's a standard practice. So now that I have this, once again, I can go to File, Save As, and save this as a JPEG again, continuing to make various exports from the images that I have. So I hope this helps you figure out the crop tool, the options you have before you, and gives you some way to make multiple crops out of a single image. Have a good day.